I'm Charlie Cunningham.
Investigator Cunningham, could you please tell the jury a little bit about where you work and what your role is with them?
Sure. I work with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office, and currently I'm assigned to the Greenville County Intelligence Unit. I work for the Greenville County Sheriff's Office, and I currently work within the Intelligence Unit, and I've been with the Sheriff's Office since early of 2008.
What do you do specifically with the intelligence unit?
Specifically, we collect digital forensics information, various types of electronic evidence, and we assist in investigations both locally and assist in investigations with state law enforcement and federal law enforcement. When
you speak of electronic evidence, what format does that usually come to you in?
Typically, it can come by way of cellular telephone extractions, computer extractions, telephone data that would come from a cell phone provider, or electronic records that may come from an internet service provider as well.
And when you say cell phone extraction, can we break that down a little bit on what exactly that means from your role?
Sure. If a cellular device happens to be seized by law enforcement and a warrant obtained to look into that data on that device, we would then use tools that are specifically utilized to connect to that device and extract out whatever contents the device may contain, and then generate a report for us that we would then analyze and review with the investigator.
You say tools, and specifically related to cell phones. What tools do you typically use when you do an extraction of a cell phone?
The most common tools that we use are Celebrite and Gray Key, as well as PinLink from an analytical standpoint. But
okay. And in using those, does it require training, some education on how to navigate those programs?
Sure. I began receiving training earlier in my investigative career, peer training with Cellbrite. I later went on to Cellbrite School, as well as some PinLink hosted schools, varying places of continuing education on how to operate and stay up to date with current techniques.
And to expand on this a little bit more, when you use one of these programs, a Cellbrite or a Grayshift or PinLink, are you interpreting the data it provides, or how does that process work?
In layman's terms, I would explain it like it's. You can think of it like a digital camera. You turn the hardware and software on, make a connection with it. Essentially, you're pointing it towards what you want to capture, and you follow its instructions, and it begins to retrieve whatever it can, whatever it's capable of retrieving, and then we review the information that it puts out in front of us. It could be telephone calls, messages, photos, location data. There's varying amounts of data that could be observed.
To your knowledge, are these programs those that are generally used by law enforcement, at least locally or more broadly?
It's my understanding and experience that these same capabilities are used worldwide by law enforcement.
And in your time in this specific role, approximately how many of these extractions specific to cell phones have you conducted?
Several thousand.
Were you tasked with doing extractions on cell phones in the present case?
Yes, I was.
What phones specifically?
There was a varying host of cell phones that I was provided with and performed extractions on.
I'll narrow it down for you. So State's Exhibit 112. Showing you State's Exhibit 112
Sure.
is, what is 112?
112. This is the packaging. It contains a cell phone labeled with the item number CN1 and the case number from the Grimm County Sheriff's Office for the cell phone of Zachary Hughes.
Is that a cell phone that you did an extraction on?
It is.
Okay. Did you get any information as well from the victim, Christina Parcells' phone?
Yes. Yes.
Did you find what phone number she had that was pertinent to this case?
Yes, there was several phone numbers that we learned that was in use by Miss Parcell. One of those being 5742. It ended in 5742.
Is it 5142?
Yeah, 5142. I'm sorry, my notes are a little scattered.
Okay.
We referred to that as it was referred to as the clone phone.
Okay. So, in conducting the extraction of State's Exhibit 112, I believe it is, do you hook it up to a computer?
Yes.
And is that how those programs take effect?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of activity or what kind of data can you extract from a cell phone?
Depending on how much is on a cell phone, a great deal. Cell phones are much like a computer in terms of what they can access and store internally. The data can store telephone calls and messages and emails, internet search history, photos, third-party applications that are accessible through the internet. A great deal of information can be extracted from a cell phone, and in these particular cell phones, a great deal typically was extracted.
And is it through these programs that you view this particular information?
In the program in which it's extracted with, like Celebrite, yes.
So could you speak generally to when you're extracting a cell phone, to what kind of data you can receive initially without opening it, without having a passcode, anything? Can you still receive data from it?
Sure, you can. Some of the initial information that you could receive about a cell phone, without getting too in depth into the extraction, is if the device has been programmed with a name, for instance, John Doe's cell phone. That cell phone number that device is using, oftentimes those are some of the first pieces of information that are present for us to see and observe.
Okay. And then after a phone is, let's say opened with a passcode, does it continue to pull data and information?
It can, yes.
Okay. And to this specific phone, States 112, how was it brought to you to analyze? Or I should say, who brought it to you to analyze?
I believe that Investigator John Garrett brought me this cell phone while a search warrant was being executed at 200 Tyndall Avenue, where I understood Zachary Hughes to reside.
Okay. So you did, in fact, conduct an extraction on States 112. Is that right?
That's correct.
Did you perform an extraction before the phone opened and after the phone opened?
Yes, sir, I did.
I'm going to show you what is State's Exhibit 172. Showing you States 172. Do you recognize States 172?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is it?
It's a USB thumb drive where I put the raw data that was extracted from this device, both before and after the passcode had been discovered.
Okay. Have you had a chance to review the contents of 172 and confirm that is what's on this device?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time the state moves into evidence State's Exhibit 172.
No objection, Your Honor.
Objection, 172, which part of the record?
So speaking to this extraction you conducted on Mr. Hughes' phone, when you initially begin this extraction process, what kind of data were you able to receive from that phone?
When I initially received the phone, it was turned on, it was powered on, and it was passcode locked. Using the software that we used at the time, I began the process utilizing GrayKey. This is an Apple iPhone, and GrayKey did the best job at extractions with those type devices, specifically those that were passcode locked. I plugged it into the machine and allowed it to begin to examine the device. It quickly gave me preliminary information like the cell phone number, the type of phone that it was, and that some data could be extracted immediately, and that it was capable of brute forcing the passcode. And what brute forcing means is that it will begin a process of attempting to decrypt what that passcode may be. And there's many different processes that software may utilize, but it gives me the option to command it to either begin processing the passcode, begin working on decrypting that passcode, or go ahead and extract data to review right now. And that's what I chose to do was to command it to go ahead and retrieve whatever data that it could, and then work on the passcode.
So when you're using a GrayKey or a Cellbrite, and you want to, I guess, present the information in a deliverable form, how do you do that?
The raw data that is extracted initially is then uploaded into a program called Physical Analyzer. That Physical Analyzer program is software that is built and engineered by Cellbrite, the same software that may pull the data, but it essentially takes all the raw files that it's able to extract, and it begins to put it back into an order that we could look at on a computer, similarly to how it might maybe looked at on a cell phone device. It will give us options and folders that are in categories like pictures and images and telephone calls and text messages and internet search history. It makes it a little more convenient for an investigator or for an analyzation of that data to look in the direction of what it is that you're looking for.
So using a Cellbrite, are you able to account for times and dates that items were sent or stored or recorded?
More often than not, yes.
Okay. And using those programs, do you create reports from them, or do they create reports for you?
Yes. Reports can be created. Generally, we're always going to create a report of whatever data that we extracted, and that report will contain essentially everything that is known. It can be categorized, and even the data that the software is not capable of understanding, although it extracted it, it will just place it over in another folder that's just known as uncategorized data, and then we can further build reports off of the initial main report for individual things like telephone calls or text messages or location data.
Were you able to create some reports using Cellbrite and GrayKey specifically from Mr. Hughes' phone?
Yes, I was.
If I showed them to you, would you recognize them?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what is State's Exhibit 170 and 171. show you 70, 171. Could you identify these two items for me?
Sure. The State's Exhibit 171 is a Gray Key progress report, and this is a progress report that Gray Key makes available of the raw data that extracted. When that extraction takes place, anything that's known as a target device is the device that we actually have plugged into the computer that we've commanded it to extract data from, and it will identify what it can recognize of this device, like the type, the model, cellular telephone numbers that are utilized on it, email addresses, various Wi-Fi IDs and Bluetooth IDs and MAC addresses, as well as an event log of when certain amounts of data, or when processes were taking place with the extraction itself.
So that is essentially an overview of what Gray Key produced.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then what about 171?
171 is a Celebrite report. This would have came by way of Physical Analyzer. It's an extraction report for an Apple iOS full file system extraction.
Does it what
And
information does that produce?
This one in particular is, I can tell that it's an extraction report specific to what user accounts may have been located on that device, and I can see that the user accounts, Facebook, email, I can tell that this is the user accounts created from Mr. Hughes' cell phone.
Your Honor, this time the state moves into evidence 170 and 171.
No objection.
No objection, 170, 171 comes out.
Investigator Cunningham, bringing your attention to that Cellbrite user accounts report, what is the email associated with all of those accounts?
I can see that there's several. One is zachary.david.hughes@gmail.com.
So were you able to corroborate that email with the emails that were returned from Google and the material that they provided for Mr. Hughes?
Yes, sir.
When you're conducting this initial extraction, were you able to receive data on messages that were exchanged from that phone?
Yes, sir, I was.
And from what medium were those, or the vast majority of those messages pertinent to this case, shared with you?
The vast majority, I would say, came from an application known as WhatsApp, as well as Facebook Messenger and the regular messaging.
Were you able to create a report on WhatsApp's, or let me back up. Did you find some WhatsApp conversation or WhatsApp exchange from that States 112 and a John Mello on WhatsApp?
Yes.
Were you able to create a report specifically for that conversation?
Yes, I was.
And if I showed you the first page of that report, would you recognize it?
Yes.
Let me show you what it states 173. Showing you states 173. What is that?
This is one of many pages from the extraction report from Mr. Hughes' phone of a WhatsApp message specifically between Mr. Hughes and John Mello, John Mello's WhatsApp number, which I recognize, and there's a photograph of Mr. Hughes also in that message.
Do you recognize Mr. Mello's number at least from one angle, from the email exchanges between Mr. Mello and Mr. Hughes?
Yes. Yes, I can see that the number is the same number that we observed in the Gmail data that was received back.
In, I believe, the first message there, does Mr. Hughes, or does Mr. Hughes' name identified there in one of the messages?
Yes, it is. Zachary, I mean, it shows that Zachary Hughes as the owner of the message.
Okay. Is his picture on top of it?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, this time the state moves in evidence, states 173. Sure.
No objection.
Rejection was before he comes in. I'm going to start from the top here.
Is this the report that was generated for the WhatsApp conversation between Mr. Hughes and Mr. Mello?
Yes, sir, it was.
Is that the picture you're referring to at the top left of 173?
Yes, sir, it is.
Is that Mr. Hughes in that picture?
Yes, sir.
And then as to this first message, in the blue there, where it says, it's John Zach. How is Zach spelled?
Z-A-C-K.
Is that significant at all in reviewing these messages?
It is. I remember a time when I believe I read a message earlier on where Mr. Hughes was his name was used as Zach, but spelled differently, and it was corrected by Mr. Hughes in reply that it was a K.
Z-A-C-K.
Yes, sir.
What's the date on the very first message there?
October the 7th, 2020.
And this red X that's in both of these messages, what does that mean?
That's indicative of a recovered deleted message. So it's a symbol placed on a message that was deleted data that was recovered with the forensic software.
So, approximately, how many messages were you able to review exchanged between Mr. Hughes and Mr. Mello, beginning with this message on October 7th of 2020?
I believe it was maybe in excess of 1,000. It was a great deal.
So, when's the last message on WhatsApp to date between Mr. Mello and Mr. Hughes?
October the 13th, 2021.